Welcome to another episode of the Pentecast podcast. My name is Andrew Bella. Alongside me is my good friend Ryan Sellers.
Good to be back. It's like we never left.
Because we haven't. We've been here all week. We're getting hungry. No,
Send
folks. We've done a little recording tonight and just trying to do as many episodes as we can when we can get together. And it's always good to be back with you folks. Like I said last week, it's another Monday, and I'm so thankful that you guys are here. Josh and Ty, Ryan, of course. Welcome back to the, what did we ever call this place? Stormore Studios.
That was the upper room.
That was in the home. So,
The lower room.
yeah, so.
The Ober rent on.
Absolutely. So, Josh, thank you for sharing your story
That was beautiful.
last week. It was awesome. And I like how much we honored your grandpa
Yep.
in doing so, because let me tell you, had he been alive when I had this equipment, it would have been one of the first testimonies that I would have recorded. And
I don't even know if I know his testimony.
that's why it's important what we're doing right here.
Hey, and to throw one more plug in for him, the greatest foot washing service I have ever been a part of happened. He was the central tool in that service. It was in between. It's like when he first came back from being sick from the infection, and he came back to that foot washing service, and he physically got down on his hands and knees, and he was not able to do it, and washed your great-grandpa's feet, Brother W.L. Smith, who is another
Treasure.
And, man, you talking about heaven coming down. It was phenomenal.
Honestly, that's incredible. I don't know of a foot washing or a communion service that I've been to that heaven never came down.
Yeah.
I'm telling you right now, you want to talk about humbling you
Yeah.
and getting you to where Jesus wants you, wash somebody's feet.
Yeah.
Wash somebody's feet.
I washed your feet one time. I remember.
Did you?
Yeah. Still got PTSD. Just kidding.
Actually, I think of Stanford's feet every time. Man, I loved him, but
When I think about foot washing, I think about your dad washing my granddad's.
Oh, man. That was
yeah,
another
that's man. I'll tell you what, that's incredible.
one. It was a phenomenal service.
Yes, it was. Well, Ty, you're the last one to go as far as everyone here at the podcast. And here's what I felt like doing before your testimony was recorded. And I was doing men's meetings at our church.
Mm-hmm.
And, man, I don't know about you, but I really enjoyed them.
Yeah.
And I had many, many men that came to me and told me that they were very impactful. One of the last ones that we had there at the church, speaking of communion and foot washing, the last men's meeting that I held at New Corinth was 6 guys.
Yeah, I wasn't there.
It might
That
have
was
been
your lowest crowd, wasn't it?
the lowest crowd. Yeah, most of them, we had really good crowds. But you want to talk about heaven coming down. All of us were hugging each other's necks. We love each other. There was no, let me say it this way. There was total unity among us, because where the presence of the Lord is, there's unity, okay? And if we could have lived in that environment our whole lives, we would have made better human beings.
Yeah.
Because the minute we get out of that environment, we make terrible decisions.
Yeah.
Horrible decisions.
When you're humbled down to that just absolute lowest point.
Yep.
Right.
And
I'm looking at you, and all I'm searching for is the love that I have for
Yep.
you.
That's right.
And I'm not looking for any flaw, whether it's there or not. I'm just looking, my heart's looking at yours. And
Well, the thing about foot washing, and Jesus, he said, "Look, if you don't let me do this, you'll have no part with me."
yeah.
No one is greater than Jesus. And leadership, if leadership isn't careful, they will get abased. and they will think that they're greater or more important than a lay member. Let me tell you something. Nobody is more important than anybody. Nobody. We are all zeros. All of us. And we are all human beings with flaws. And so what's wonderful about like a foot washing or a communion service is from the top down, you're on the same level. You're all servants. You're all servants. And that's what's so amazing about those experiences, is because when we put ourselves in our rightful place, I'm a nobody, and exalt him, Jesus Christ, that's a winner every time. But one of the last men's meetings that we had, if you remember, I was talking about stones and the importance of stones. And I had a 5-gallon bucket of stones that I had purchased. I don't know if you were there or not, Ryan.
I wasn't.
But I had every man go into that 5-gallon bucket and pick up a stone. And these weren't little rocks. The reason why I'm calling it a stone.
I passed them out. Them jokers were heavy.
Yeah, they were big stones, like some that you would find in a creek up in the mountains. And I had every man hold one. And while they were holding them, I said, I want you to look at this stone in your hand. And I want you to feel it. And I want you to remember what it looks like, how it feels in your hand. And I said that as men, this isn't throwing off on the ladies. We have a huge lady audience. But as men, if you read in the Old Testament when they said, when they were stacking stones for remembrance, and this is what the scripture said, and they will ask their fathers, what mean these stones? Mm-hmm. And the father's responsibility is to tell them, you take this stone, and we're going to stack these stones as a remembrance of how God moved for us. Okay? That is a great example of how we can use a stone for remembrance of, this is where the Lord met me. Matter of fact, in my life, I've got a lot of stones stacked in areas where no one will ever get me to doubt the Lord moved in this area. Oh, yeah. The Lord moved in this instance. And I said, but here's the other issue. Stones also are mentioned in the Bible with very, very troubling details. Mm-hmm. When a woman was caught in the very act of adultery, the men grabbed stones, wanting to stone her because that was her rightful punishment. The only man worthy out of the whole group of people that were around her was Jesus. He was the only one that wouldn't throw a stone. Right. And I said, so we can stack these stones together and make something memorable, or we can throw them at each other, because we all have a stone in our hands. We all have a stone in our hands. And I said, out of remembrance, and obviously I'm not the originator of this. I went to an event where this happened, and it changed the way I look at rocks. I'm not kidding. And instead of throwing this, you have an obligation. And I said, what are we going to do? And I said, I'll be the first one. I said, I'm going to throw my stone back in this bucket, and I'm going to lift both of my hands up, and I'm going to tell you, no stones. No stones. I have no stones to throw. You can go online and listen to my testimony. You can probably go online and find everything I've done terrible. I haven't always been a great person, but I'm so glad that a Savior looked at me one day with both of his hands up, and I saw nail scars. He says, no stones, Andrew. No stones. And I thought about Ty's testimony, because it's so powerful, but yet there's so many young men that would say, man, I've not been down that road. And if you haven't, you have no idea how hard it is to walk in the shoes that he walks in. That's why I have mad respect for a kid like him. And I just felt like telling you before you gave your story, no stones. Nobody in this room has a stone to throw, because a lot of the bad things that you've been dealt in your life, they were stones thrown at you, not you thrown at other people. But I have witnessed, I actually was working out with him this morning, Ryan, and I saw him, and I said, who would have ever thought, me and this kid working out? And I said, it all started, this was going through my mind this morning, it all started with a basketball game and a box of Gushers. and Denise Wells was babysitting him, and I played a game of basketball with him.
Wow.
Smoked him like a ham.
You're trash. You're absolute dog water.
So no stones, but I'm excited to hear this. I'm very excited. Just like I was excited to hear Josh's. You have an incredible story too. God's good.
And I'm going to cry. Again.
I've told bits and pieces of it on previous episodes. I really don't know where to start, to be honest with you.
Start from the beginning.
Well, I was born May 23rd, 2000.
Mistake number one.
No, I was born in 2000, and my dad wasn't there, to be honest with you, just to be flat out.
Literally was not there.
He wasn't.
He wasn't there at your birth?
Nope.
Mm-mm. I think at that point he was already arrested.
Really?
My dad's been in and out of prison. He's actually, I don't know if you want to leave this in or not, he's currently in prison. I think he's got 6 or 7 more years. He's in federal. So my dad, I mean, he's not just some county jail. He's big time. And I'm not ashamed to say that's my dad, you know, and that's something I've had to deal with.
Right. It took you a while to get there.
It took me 20 years to get to that point to say that's my dad and not be ashamed to say it. But my mom raised me, and I have a half brother. His name is Hunter. My brother and my mom and I lived with my stepbrother's or half brother's dad for 9 years until 2009. And then on October 9th, 2009, my biological granddad and his wife, I call her Nana because they've been married since 2001. So
That's your grandma.
Yeah, I've only known her as Nana.
That's your Nana. And by the way, faithful listener.
Amen.
And we love her. And I told Ty, Terry, if you're listening, which she is, I want you on the podcast.
That's right.
And I wanted to make sure that message got relayed because there's always a seat for Nana. And we love you very much. And you are a rock star. And the episode, Ryan, that we did about everyone's a winner, what's wrong with America, she texted and said, Ty showed it to me. She said, tell Andrew I really enjoyed the episode. Some people need to get a life. And I'm like, yes.
Nana's a straight baller.
Yeah.
She is.
So she is your Nana.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So Nana and Pop come and pick me up over on the Sand Ridge in Douglas.
What happened to make that take place?
Well, Marsha had asked me certain questions. Marsha's my mom. Make it easier.
Right.
Marsha asked me a question. It's hard to remember time. I'm going to say a couple months prior. She said, would you ever be against living with Steve and Terry?
Mm-hmm.
Steve being my granddad, of course. And
Not her parents.
No, this is my dad's parents, mind you.
And your parents, just so the listeners know, your parents were never married.
No. I mean, Ma, WL and Ma, they met my mom. So they knew they had a connection good enough to at least have a child. And she asked me, she said, would you ever be against living with Steve and Terry? And me being, 8, maybe 9 years at the time, I said no. Because the only time I go to their house is on the weekend to hang out and
have fun.
Yeah. So I'm like, no, of course I wouldn't be against that. Be chilling every day.
How often were you going there?
Not often. I mean, weekend here and there.
But you're thinking a party.
Dude.
Got my life of ease.
Because I share a room with my half-brother at that point.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm thinking, dude, full room to myself.
How old are you?
Now?
No, at that time.
I'm
9.
Yeah.
Dude, you're not thinking that at 9.
He probably was.
Oh, at 9 years old, you're thinking party
well, mind
for
you,
a life.
I'm not trying to. So if you were saying, I don't know if you were thinking that at 9 years old. I had been getting me and my brother up every morning for school to get on the bus. I was cooking him breakfast. I was cooking me breakfast. I was cooking us, certain meals. So I'm not. I was gonna say I was mature at that age. I probably drained and gone off the deep end of maturity levels.
No, I would say that you weren't given really a good opportunity at being a kid. Yeah, you had to grow up quicker than you should have.
But so to be chilling every day, that was definitely on my mind.
That sounded good.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So they come and pick me up October 9th, and life is just great, just a 9-year-old living life.
Yep.
And then from 9 to 2014, so 2009 to 2014, 5 years just going to school, kind of living life. Nothing was really different. And then October of 2014, because it was the same month as Pop's birthday, is how I remember it. Pop got diagnosed with cancer.
Mm-hmm.
Did you know he was having issues or did they keep that from you and then out of nowhere when it happened?
Come on, like going to get checked up.
Yeah, I mean,
Well,
one day he gets cancer, but I mean, obviously there's certain complications that are happening.
Yeah, well, it was prostate cancer, so I know there were certain things like maybe he's not able to go to the restroom the right way, or maybe he's had certain pains. But he's also
Okay.
farming at this time, so him riding the tractor, they don't know if it's just him riding the tractor pains or. So they go to the doctor, they get checked out.
And your grandpa was in church before.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's
He used to lead the
your
choir.
connection
Yeah.
to the same
Right,
church
okay.
as us.
And his parents,
Yeah. My great grandparents, W.L. and Frankie Smith.
yep,
or pioneers of the
legendary.
church.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah, literally,
Pop.
just legends in our church.
So he was raised in the church, essentially.
Yes,
Yeah.
he was.
He was a Sunday school teacher. He was
Yeah,
in the choir.
He
Yeah,
led the choir.
Their CDs.
When I was a kid, he led the choir.
You sent me a clip, or Danny did, of him singing.
Oh yeah,
Oh.
I had a tape somewhere of him. And,
Oh my word, like
and
a
Uncle
hummingbird.
Newton and
He reminded me of Trevor.
and James Griffin.
He was
singing.
another tenor.
Yeah.
Yeah,
he was good.
Ooh, he could sing.
He would get on the piano every once in a while, sure he could play and sing. He was good. And he actually helped, if I'm not mistaken, he helped build the campground, the boys' dorm.
He probably did.
So my great-grandparents go to New Corinth. That's the church that we go to.
Yeah,
So Pop was raised there. He's got 2 siblings that go there. So
but at the time that he brings you in those first 5 years, y'all aren't going to church.
So there's no church relation. Nana was actually raised Catholic.
Mm-hmm.
So there's 2 different religions in the house.
Right.
And so we say, what are we going to do? I continue on with my life because there's nothing really I can do at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And then Pop says, we're going to start going to church.
Mm-hmm.
So from October to November, I'm kind of bitter toward Pop, to be honest with you. Because my Sundays.
He's making you. Yeah, your Sundays aren't free anymore.
Yeah. And I mean, just be flat out with you.
You
And you're
didn't want
a
to be there.
kid, and
Yeah,
you love
you
the
didn't want to be at church.
I waste my Saturday just doing something I want to do. So now homework, stuff I pushed off, stuff I procrastinated, that's now taken up with church. And I even had that conversation with him. I said, you've taken my Sunday away from me. He goes, I don't care. You're going to church.
And he did. He swapped gears
Immediately.
just flat out.
But you know what?
Well, it's like I was telling you about my dad. He knew.
Oh yeah, no
He
doubt.
knew what was right.
He knew what was right.
And,
yeah.
but I can, but on a more secular side, I can see where that would frustrate you
Yeah.
because it's like
I've had no religious upbringing. This
Yeah.
is the first time church has
And-
been.
mentioned.
Yeah.
You get
And-
you get a health scare, and now
Right.
my life's completely changed.
Right. Yeah, and from, forgive me if I'm over getting out of bounds here, but from your perspective, church hadn't been important for the last 5 years. Why is it important now?
Church hadn't been important to me my
Ever,
whole life.
right? Yeah, but even watching him, you
Yeah.
know, it hadn't been a foundational thing.
We'd
for-
go like maybe on Easter or Christmas,
right,
stuff like that.
Right.
Or second Sunday. It'd be like Josh and only eat. But
Okay.
But then about a month and a half later, I kind of had a situation similar to Josh's, where I'm sitting in where I sat beside Kyle Day, where he used to sit beside Heather. I sat right there, and I moved him to the front.
And now you're sitting by Heather.
Yeah. Get you. No, I'm sitting there, and Brother Jody's preaching, and I have no idea what he's preaching about. And right at the very end, right before altar call, Brother Jody gives an illustration, and I could not just stop thinking about my brother. I have no relationship with my brother at all at this point. We've been separated for 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I just kept thinking, what can I do to save my brother? Physically, I was not.
Yeah.
I was not thinking spiritually at that point.
Well, you were just thinking about the situation that he was living in.
Was there a wave of guilt because it's like you got out but he didn't?
It would hit me every once in a while. And I would hear about stuff that's going on in his life. I'm like, man,
It could have been you.
I got the easy route. And I went down to the altar.
That's tough, dude.
And I cried, and I was ashamed of it. I went back to the back, sat behind Nana and Pop, and they're like, what's wrong? What's wrong? Why are you crying? And Kayla Sellers saw me and come and got me. And she pulled me to the front, and I couldn't stop saying, but I'm sorry. That's all I could say was, I'm sorry. I covered my face. I was so ashamed. And I had it wasn't a golden orb in the room, but it's like I could see a lot clearer when I left,
Mm-hmm.
And I went, there was a I was in a group called TSA at school, and the next day I had a buddy.
Oh, like the airport checkout stuff.
Yeah, yeah. I was
Give me your bag.
checking bags.
All right.
You know,
Watch is off. All right, empty your pockets.
that's exactly right. And I had a buddy who actually went to church, and me and him have been really close. And I said, Levi, I got saved last night. And he just hugged me. He said, I'm proud of you, and I'm happy.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember there were things that I held on to that nobody told me to let go of, like cussing. Dude, I used to have a mouth like a sailor.
I remember.
But you probably did. And I remember just having so much conviction come over me. I remember the last time I ever cussed. And I'm not saying the last, because that was 2014. It's 22 now. I'm not saying the last 8 years were easy.
No.
There were situations that have come up, and there are battles that have come up from the first 14 years of my life where I wasn't saved, where I've had to deal with that. But the Lord has been right there with me every step. The 5 years between 2014 to 2019. Pop passed away in 2019. And I don't know if y'all guys have ever dealt with this, but certain sayings in the church where like, I don't know, and it might be just a lack of belief or lack of faith, but saying that he'll take away death's sting.
Mm-hmm.
I was there when Pop took his last breath,
Mm-hmm.
you know. I remember Nana breaking down, Becky and Jason breaking down. And I was happy he wasn't suffering no more.
Mm-hmm.
And he was right there with me. I'm not saying it wasn't easy to see him go, but the Lord was right there with me.
Right.
And he helped me through that. And there have been situations where I've reached out to my mom, reached out to my dad, and said, I'm sorry for the bitterness I've held towards you.
Mm-hmm.
But you made the right decision.
Mm-hmm.
Dad, you gave me life. I was ashamed to call you my dad. But you gave me the biggest opportunity, and that's life itself.
Yep.
Mom, I know it was hard for you, and I'm sorry for the bitterness I had, thinking that you gave me away.
But she did the best thing for you.
She did,
You gave me a
and she
second
really knew
chance.
that at the time.
I mean, looking back, I'm so selfish. Why would you give me away? In reality, she knows that she's battling her own stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And it was probably extremely hard to do that.
Yeah.
Oh, can you imagine? And you talk about the guilt of something that wasn't really your doing. Think of the guilt of a parent. I feel guilty when I can't give my kids what they want, like certain things. And as a parent, you want to give your kids the world. And I know that's the case. My dad, even through his struggles, my mom and dad struggled. Even through that, I know for a fact my mom and dad wanted what was best for us. But they're dealing with internal issues that you can't see. And kids, because they don't know any better, think, it's me. I'm the issue.
Yeah.
I'm the problem. And your story is really complex because there's so many angles to it. Because a lot of the things that you had to work out were really not your fault.
Not at all.
And I've told you this in private, and I'll say it on the podcast. A lot of the things that you had to work out, really, it's a shame that you've had to. It's a shame that you've had to get the things out of your heart. And that's why one thing that Brother Jody says a lot is nobody lives to themselves, nobody dies to themselves. Everything that we do has a rippling effect that affects other people in our lives. If I lied to you, it's going to affect you. It's going to mold you to believe a lie. Okay? It's important to believe the truth found in God's word. Okay? If your mom or dad or your mom or dad or my mom or dad or Ryan's mom or dad does something, it does not disconnect from the children. It's going to have a rippling effect.
That's going to go through generation after generation.
After generation. And that's why one of the worst struggles that I've always had, because I think that me and you have a very similar, line of events. Not saying that, my upbringing was anything like yours, but just some of the struggles that we've had to have, kind of like same demon, different mask, different clothing, but same demon. And that goes for us all in this room.
Yeah.
There's things that we've had to work through. And this is what I've always told you. Why does the devil fight people like us the hardest, because thieves don't break into empty houses. There's something that he said, the thief come not but for to kill, steal, and destroy. That's his goals. Those are his motives. That's what he came for. But then we have the Prince of Peace, the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords, the Alpha, the Omega, the beginning, the end, who has come that you may have life and have it more abundantly. The things that you have to get over are things that you didn't do, but that you allowed to affect you. I love the Apostle Paul's scripture when he's telling him, he's being honest. He's like, look, I've been a terrible person a lot of times in my life. And Paul was, but he thought he was doing it for good. But yet his actions affected others. And it was bothering him. I mean, he was struggling with it. And he said, brethren, I count not myself to have apprehended, but this one thing I do, forgetting those things which are behind. That's where we fall so many times. In your story, in our stories, in our testimonies, you that are listening and watching, your stories, there's not going to be another chapter until we close this one. And some chapters are darker than others. But God has a pen in his hand, and he's ready to write. What if your story ended with, my dad was in prison, and I lived with my half-brother, the end? Or it took a different direction. But the whole time while your story is being written, Josh's story is being written, as young boys, you don't understand what's going on. But God's goal, listen, it took him 6 days to create everything. It took us how many thousands of years to make a light bulb? If you think about it. Internet was created, I don't know how long ago, but we still don't have it here. I mean, come on, Elon Musk.
You live in the middle of hillbilly nowhere.
It took God 6 days to create everything. Electricity, the light bulb was already created, but it took us thousands of years to invent it. Right? Everything we needed was already here in 6 days. But why did God create everything? Everything, so he could have relationships with everyone. He created all of that. That's what David said in his word. He said, what is man that thou art mindful of him, that you consider him, that you visit him? Well, in order to visit man, I've got to create a place where he can live and that he can abide. That is how personal our God is. That's how much he loves us.
One thing I do want to add in was the biggest friendship probably that God put into my life. That was 2016. And that was the Joshua Stephen Kimbrell.
Good job.
So our lives kind of do intertwine around
Definitely.
2016.
That was 2016?
It was.
What happened in 2016? I know Trump won.
No, it was either 2016 or 2015. Because I know I was a sophomore at least. Because we would see each other walk into class, and we would see each other at church.
Yeah, because we went to the same high school, and
Yeah.
and when I started going out there, I think I noticed him, and I was like, I know that, or I know the face, I don't know him, and then I don't really remember.
I don't know if I ever told you this, but I literally changed my pathway to classes to try to see you, to tell you to say, hey, your cousin is taking me on a trip this weekend up to this church.
Mm-hmm.
You're welcome to come. And then it turned into, I turned 16. Hey, you want to ride with me? You want to stay at the house? And then that's turned into...
And Josh, being the freeloader that he is,
So, hey, I got some
Take all I can get.
I got some whole milk in the fridge, second shelf.
got some Chip Ahoy's. And then that turned into, hey, you don't have to drive 15 minutes. You can just stay at the house. And that turned into almost us living together.
Essentially.
And, dude, that was...
Go ahead and be honest.
We have a brotherhood, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And I know it's been shaky. And a lot of that's my fault, to be honest with you. But I can't thank you enough. And I can't thank the Lord enough. Because I needed that strong connection. I needed that foundation of just friendship in my young Christian life.
Yeah.
Because your family, Brother Kimbrell, Brother Cecil, one thing I didn't want to say last episode, because I want to say it this episode, He created a haven for me. Every weekend after service, go there and just be around some good holiness people. To be around a family that almost adopted me.
Yeah.
If you weren't at my house, we were at your cousin's house. If we weren't there, we was at your grandparents' house.
Every Sunday after church, you go eat and you just hang out.
That sounds mighty familiar. Sister Sherry Smith has fed me many meals, bought me countless articles of clothing, and filled my heart full of love many, many times. And like I've told y'all many, many times, that friendship that you form when the only person on the entire face of the earth that knows what Josh is going through, besides Josh, is Ty, and vice versa. And you can fall shoulder to shoulder in an altar of prayer and pray through to God's victory and freedom. There is nothing like that. And it's just a miracle.
Yep. And I'll tell you, I'm going to reiterate what I said last week on the podcast. One ingredient. Try to make a cake without flour. What happens?
Won't work.
It won't work. You leave sugar out of the ingredients to make cupcakes, they don't taste good. Okay? And guess what? We've heard a lot of misfortune in your story. All those ingredients, but you add one. And it makes it sweet, and it makes it worth it.
I have life eternal.
Jesus Christ. I'm telling you, he's the greatest thing that you'll ever get in your life.
And now Pops is in heaven, and because of that ingredient, Ty is still there every service that he can be. And that is what it's going to take. Boy, this has been good. I've enjoyed it. I hadn't cried, but I want to real bad. We love you. We hope you have a great week. Over and under.